I catch a glance of the moon through the dead branches of ancient trees as I drive down the ill-kept dirt road. The sun had set hours ago, and now the moon, a mere sliver, did little to keep the shadows under guard. As my janky car jitters along the pothole-scarred asphalt, I make out through the tin-rusted fence by the light of my headlights. I make out a tin-rusted fence by the light of my headlights drawing ever nearer. This must be it, I mutter to myself as I pass a dilapidated car with the words Scott Scrap painted across its side in blood red. I feel a small shiver go down my spine. I pat my old car's dashboard. Don't break down on me now, or I might just have to leave you here, I chuckle to myself, trying to lighten the mood. The rusted fence extends beyond the reach of my headlights as I continue alongside the scrapyard. I glance to my right and manage to see into the yard through the crack in the fence. Hundreds, maybe thousands of automotive corpses are as far as the eye can see. After a few minutes more, the road curves into what must be the entrance, but now is little more than an extension of the graveyard within. As I park, my headlights illuminate dozens of steel husks that overflow from beyond the confines of its rusting walls, like bodies mowed down as they were trying to escape. I step out of my car, and the hair on the back of my neck stiffens. The cold night chill seems to cut through my clothes. I face the ominous junkyard and take a deep breath. Well, here goes nothing. I turn on my phone's flashlight and begin to approach. The knot in my stomach tightens as I weave my way through the broken dead cars deposited near the entrance, trying to avoid the remains of their broken-out windows that litter the ground. I wrap my arms around myself, merely because I'm cold, of course, and make my way to what must be the gate. I clamber over the hood of a car and find my way to the gate. It's ajar just enough for a person, perhaps, to fit through it sideways. I tug at the handle, only to elicit a grating creak from the dying hinges. I quickly let go. Well, I think to myself, if anyone didn't know I was here before, they do now. I give up on trying to open the gate and slide through the crack. I cast the dim light of my phone across the automotive graveyard and swallow, before calling out, "Hello?" in a tone far less confident than I intended. The sound of the wind as it passes through the lifeless steel frames is my only reply. I peer down the narrow path ahead of me. No one seems to be here. Maybe I should just come back later? I begin to turn around before the sound of rusted hinges cuts through the night. I jump and whip around, only to light up a grungy old man as he tugs the gate closed behind me. He squints and raises his hand to shield his eyes from the light. "Oi, that's bright," he says in a gravelly tone. I lower my flashlight and try to calm my racing heart. Sorry, my bad. Do you work here?" The little old man gives a lopsided sneer of a gaped smile. "You could say that." He dusts off his hands and begins to hobble down the narrow path deeper to the yard. "Follow me." I hesitate and look back toward the gate that's now shut behind me. How did I not see him, I wonder? I look back toward the little man getting further away, shake my head, and follow after him. As I catch up, the old man takes a right and begins to follow a different path through the wreckage. "So, what you looking for?" I slow my stride to match his. Well, I need a new rim for my 2001 Honda Accord, because I may or may not have drifted into a curb. I have some friends in the car with me, and I was a bit overconfident, so you know how it goes. The little man simply grunts in reply. I wait a few seconds before continuing the conversation. I was also thinking about seeing if you had a rack and pinion, if you had any of those. The hobbling man looks out the corner of his eye at me, and then looks to a seamless, endless sea of cars. Yep. I scratch the back of my head. Right, of course you do. My bad. The man simply continues to hobble forward. The little old man continued to weave through the yard, getting ever closer to its center, until I could just make out the crumbling facade of what must have been a shop at some point in the distant past. The darkness behind its clouded windows watches us as we approach. The little man grasps the worn knob and pulls the door wide. Pitch black darkness awaits me. By the light of my phone, I make out heaps of alternators piled on each other, like the prized skulls of some sick collector. "Go on in." It almost sounded like a command. I bite my lip and step into the darkness. The little old man follows after me and slams the door. I hear something crash to the floor, and I whip my right arm just to see a small shape skitter away. The little man lets out a chuckle, and the sound is more like a wheeze. "The rats aren't what you need to be worrying about." What does he mean by that? My thoughts are interrupted by the sound of metal grating on metal as it fills the darkness. I jerk over to the right, and something knocks my phone from my hand. It clatters to the floor. I see something clutched in the little man's fist. I raise my arms above my head as a thunderous boom fills my ears. The lights flicker on, and the old man stoops down, muttering something about whoever put a box full of parts in front of the lights, which is going to have his pay docked. I slowly lower my arms and watch him put the crowbar he grabbed back in its respective corner, and then wrap his arms around the box full of metal parts and heave it out of the way. He grunts and hobbles toward a cluttered desk. I take a few moments and try and calm my pounding heart as the old man puts on some glasses and sits down in a dusty old office chair. He puts his hand on the old-fashioned style keyboard and asks without taking his eyes off the screen, 2001 Honda Accord, you said. There you have it. a perhaps slightly dramatized account of my visit to the junkyard. To be fair, it wasn't at night, but every other detail I mentioned was actually pretty accurate. If they haven't filmed a horror movie in a junkyard yet, I would be amazed, because man, I can only imagine how creepy that place would be actually at night. Also, might I say, the most cluttered and the most messy and cluttered place I've ever been. Like, look at this guy's desk. Yeah, I have no idea how he can work there. So yeah, I went to the junkyard, got a new rim for my wheel, and had an enlightening experience. Oh, and also, ka-ching! The cash register sound reading 0.11 Oculuses. Man, I can't tell you how happy I'll be when I have to when I can stop counting Oculuses. Anyway, let me pick up where I last left off. I finished my last life update and went to bed. There! Wasn't that exciting? Aren't you glad I wrote these? I mean, they're so informative. Okay, but actually, on to things of more substance. After I finished the last life update, I went to I spent the morning editing it and sent it off to Joe before me and Ben went to the gun store to buy a shirt for our cousin Sam, because it was his birthday. And might I say, shopping for someone is difficult when it's just on their own, but it's way more difficult when you're convinced the person you're shopping for already owns everything in the store. Like, seriously, there were quite a few times when me and Ben were like, oh, this looks cool, and then realized with at least 10% confidence that Sam probably already owned it. But yeah, we did it, and it took us an ungodly amount of time, an hour plus, to just pick out a shirt, but we did it. After that, we basically went straight to Sam's birthday party, which was a bit awkward, but not bad. We played a bit of Nutmeg, so that was fun. After that was coming to a close. We got Fern cinnamon rolls, and Ben convinced everyone to get boba, which Sam and David tolerated, but by no means enjoyed. We then went up to the ridge, and everyone chucked pine cones at each other for like over an hour, which, well, you know, I speculated and marveled at the lunacy before me. Here's a picture, which you can see basically nothing. So yeah, they did that. I watched, and then I went home. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that's what happened. Once I got home, I went on a good old-fashioned rollerblade, wherein I started at the lake. Boop. I know, you can only dream of one day getting the privilege to catch a glimpse of the lake, and to get to stare at one. I know, I'm so lucky. After the aforementioned lake staring, I went and sorted my instrumental playlist. That took around 2.5 hours. The following day, I sorted more music, went to work, and then I read the Jiro Chronicle books, some before watching some anime, heading over to Anacraft, because I finished the lava wall I was making to surround my tower. It's pretty fancy. The next day, I may have missed my alarm, but nevertheless, I made it to school on time for my in-person Spanish class, which was definitely worse than online, as she had the class do stuff like read in front of everybody, which was actual death. When I got home, I did some homework, went to work, and did more work things before watching some anime, and then heading off to Ratchet Christie. Since we ended up playing this like pretty intense strategy game called Root. We ended up playing this pretty intense strategy called Root, and you know, despite the fact I could have let Sydney win, and we would have ended at a reasonable hour, namely 11 p.m., I lacked the forbearance to see my future state of sleep deprivation would be painful, and so I instead gave in to my competitive instincts. So I kept her from winning, but then the game was like 2 hours longer, and so I ended up losing anyway. But yeah, mucho sad and unwise on my part. The following day, I returned to the building of death that is school for more in-person Spanish classes, which, you know, I did. I then did worked on returning a car part I mistakenly ordered, went to youth group, did fun things there. Then me and Joe stayed up decently late talking about Scientology. Oh, no, taking the Scientology test. That's interesting. It wouldn't have been that deadly long if it weren't for the fact that, like, about 2/3 of the way through, we realized that we've been basically been interrogating. Oh, they've basically been interrogating us as a person. And I don't understand the sentence. Okay, I'm going to read it again. Here we go. It wouldn't have been that deadly long if it weren't for the fact that about 2/3 of the way through, we realized that they would be basically be interrogating us in person. So namely, Joe decided to answer differently. Because he didn't want to see it. Okay. And so we had to go back through a lot of it. See, originally we were going to have it so we answered honestly, but he did the exact opposite of that. So, you know. And since me and Joe are similar on quite a few fronts, it ended up making him look like a very different anti-Joe kind of person. So we figured out he would have to pretend to be that person. And we're like, yeah, no way. And then he decided to actually answer truthfully. So yeah, we did that using fake emails, of course, because Scientology is a legit cult. And then I went to sleep. Thursday, I did almost no school. I took a nap because I was much sleep deprived, and then went to my physics lab and almost missed class registration, but I didn't. I went to the science hippies, only to be mostly disappointed as the actual hippie people didn't make it, and we were left with the not nearly as cool nerdy nerds. But don't get me wrong, I can fit in pretty well with the nerd club. But still, wasn't as enjoyable as the hippies. Oh, I also did destroy one of the nerds in Smash Bros, so that felt good. He didn't win once. Anyway, I finished that, went to sleep. Friday, I slept in, went and played soccer, in which I did far better than the previous times. I then did homework and went clothes shopping with Mom because, frankly, I don't have any fashion sense whatsoever. I can see all of you just nodding your heads and saying amen to that statement. And thus, I need the assistance of my female parent to inform me as to what looks good. Also, I had to get clothes for a wedding, so mom was like kind of helpful there. You know, she's been like to 1,000 weddings. No exaggeration, because wedding photographer. Hence, one would hope she understands the social motif at this point. So yeah, did that, and then I took my calculus-based physics test of death, which I didn't feel too confident about considering I hadn't actually learned anything. After that, I went and did some Bible reading, trying to work through the whole book and write my midden commentary. Commentary in a colloquial sense, like not the actual useful sense. My commentary is often like, wow, dude, big brain move there. Or are elephants really, and I quote, aroused for battle by showing them grapes? This was in the Deuterocanonical books, by the way, in case you're wondering. So yeah, I did that, and then I went to sleep. That morning, Sunday morning, I woke up and scrambled to get my awesome wedding present for Naomi and Cameron done. I gave them a car part and a fancy piece of paper with lots of analogies about how marriage is like a car part. I know, you can't wait to see what I give you for your wedding gifts. Here's a picture of it wrapped. Yeah, that's the scroll is nice. I then proceeded to attend said wedding for 6 hours, and honestly, it wasn't unbearable. Also, tangent, you need to stare at Caleb's luxurious locks. Look at that man. But truth be told, it was only bearable because Joe was there. Otherwise, it would have been way more boring. Also, I did get to talk to Montana girl again. Also, I figured out her name this time. It's Cheyenne. I have no idea how you spell it. And we got to talk, and that was good. I must say, when a person you've met once before walks up to you and you're like, hey, do you want to talk about the details of sexual ethics? And she's like, yeah, I'm down. My desire to be friends with that person drastically increases. It's a very big fact she lives in Montana. Also, there was some context for me asking if she wanted to talk about sexual ethics, by the way. I mean, not like a lot, but at least there was some. Anyway, we were there being bored, and Joe naturally started a cult. Doesn't everyone start cults when they're bored? So yeah, the cult is called the Cult of Rotten Flesh, named after what we deem the most useless item in Minecraft, namely rotten flesh. And our pitch is we're going to bring about environmental destruction of the earth, because either A, the world will unite against us, and we will bring the world peace by having a common enemy, or B, we will succeed in destroying the earth and Christ will come back. I know. You're all thoroughly impressed. We have a logo, a doctrinal statement, and a lengthy disclaimer document. Even an Instagram account that has been set up. Also, people need to follow the Instagram account because Ben is currently disappointed in our one follower. So yeah, if you want to join the cult, just let me know. I can hook you up. Also, I made this fancy mask for my Master of the Secret Libraries position, aka my DM position. Also, don't say it looks like a Magneto head thing. I did not model it off that. It just happened to look somewhat similar to that. And I'm tired of being compared to Magneto. So anyway, we did that and gained like a ton of nominal, aka inactive, cult followers. And then we went to Wendy's and ate food, and we walked around CSU for no reason. Oh, and then the most horrifying and repugnant thing imaginable occurred. The appearance of Jolene. Shivers in terror and disgust. It was actual death. Joe underwent a horrible and hideous transformation where he ceased to be the mostly rational and sane human male I've come to know and love, and instead became a completely irrational, high-pitched female obsessed with the swine flu. I actually cannot purge him saying, swine flu, in that horrible female southern accent from my brain. I honestly wish I could, but as I'm recounting it, it's literally on repeat in my brain. This actually sucks. So yeah, Jolene, a creature I have now been informed existent dormant within Joe as a complex for quite some while, emerged for the first time in my presence, and it was the absolute worst. If he ever does that again, I might need a Joe quarantine for like ever. Here's a picture of his lunacy. Though I must say, he pulls off that pigeon mask quite well. Anyway, moving on to more pleasant topics. After the random walk, me, Caleb, Joe, and I went over to Caleb's house for some Minecraft, in which we proceeded to play until 3 a.m, like rational, healthy boys. Sunday, I called places to see if I could get the part that I cross-threaded machined, but none of them ever got back to me, so that was sad. I then participated in D&D level 21 shot. I participated in a D&D level 21 shot, which was good. After that, we mixed things up a bit and did Bible study outside, Neo going preacher style, as we worked through Tobit. I then did dishes, and we played Halo into the night. Monday, I did school, some homework, and work. I spent the mindless labor time thinking through the campaign I'm going to run. And then upon arriving home, doing more homework, and then Minecraft with the boys until 11 p.m. The next day at school, I was mucho tired, which doesn't make a ton of sense, since I did technically keep my schedule, the night before. I then took a nap, which have become much more frequent than usual. And I went to work, studied for math, because I was sitting at an 89, and I really wanted an A, before watching some anime and heading to Ratchet Christie. Wednesday, I woke up and took part in one of my math tests and got a 94, which was way better than I was expecting, because up to this point, my highest grade had been 92, and I hadn't felt nearly as prepared for this one. So yeah, that was a bit of a godsend. However, I wonder if it's just like plain unjust, because I really hadn't earned that grade. That could be an interesting philosophical problem. God being unjust because he's too generous. I don't know. I could think about it more. Maybe later. Anyway, I was glad for the grade, and after I took the test, I watched some anime, did some work and homework, and then I went to youth group, and we had an epic game where me and Sam beat Joe and Benj, probably playing Spikeball. We were just going back and forth on a winning point for ages until Mr. Myers was like, next point wins, and then me and Sam got it. After that, I talked with Jordan around 2 hours before going to sleep. That Thursday, I had school, took yet another nap. It's actually been a pretty effective anti-sleep depriving measure. Went to my last calculus-based physics lab, in which we didn't have to write anything, so that was super chill. And upon getting home, I finished my last physics homework and an anime I really liked. The second one I've ever given a 9 rating. I then made the Discord channel for my campaign, talked to Liam for a bit, and did some Bible reading. That Friday, Joe came up for cult stuff, which was good. Jake stopped by to hang out for a bit because we were wanting to see him, and it was good. But it was like the time was mad at best. I then had dinner and played Mucho Minecraft with the gang until 4:30 a.m. That Saturday, I took my finals for my asynchronous classes and did meh to poor. I ended up getting a B in music appreciation, mostly because I didn't appreciate it, and that was sad. But in Spanish, I did pull off an A. After doing those, I went over to Braden's house and played some Smash with him before we came over to my house, and he helped me with my janky basement renovations. So we have this dirt basement in our house that no one ever uses, and it's like super sketch. But I decided to make it the cult/D&D/man cave room. And so I'm fixing it up to make it livable. So far, I've actually gotten a lot done. Here's what I've got. Boop. Pictures. I've got a bit to go, but I put in a decent amount of time to fix it up, and we're getting there. So yeah, Braden came over and helped me clean out some of the cobwebs, which are literally coating the ceiling. After that, we then proceeded to go dumpster diving, where we picked up one of the chairs you see in the picture above. I mean, hey, if it's free, I'm not going to turn it down, no matter where it's from. And, yep, I don't think I did anything noteworthy. The next day, I cleaned for a few hours before heading out to D&D, doing dishes, and then playing Halo. Monday was more school, more work, more homework, and I spent the rest of the day making these fancy D&D battle map. Seriously, I put way too much work in this thing. First, I used math to make a near-perfect hexagon, then I used a hexagon to make a template to sketch out all those lines, and then I did my best to run my drill along all those lines just, without making like 1,000 curves, because I made so many mistakes. It's spinning, so it doesn't want to go straight. Anyway, yeah, after I roughed out the metal on every one of those lines, I then, with some help from Grace, painted over those rough lines with acrylic paint. Seriously, it was a pain. But at least it's done now. So yeah, that took up like my whole evening. The following morning, I participated in school, took my math test, did work, joined in for a family movie, which was meh, and then went to Ratchet Christie until late. Whatever day was next, I then did more school, more work. Found out a new guy, also named Dave, was hired at my work, and that was a surprise. I studied for the last part of my math final, sorted some instrumental music, went to youth group, engaged in the festivities that were included therein, then went through every anime on Netflix and picked up like the 15 that passed my sketches standards, and like half of those are explicitly romance, so that super sucked. I'm telling you, why anime gotta be so sketchy? Oh well, at least Parents Guys exist so you can find out beforehand, and don't get hooked. So yeah, did that, and then I read some more of the Drew Canonical books. Thursday, I think I had school. I took that final math test. Also took my final physics test, which was a big oof, because I only halfway knew what I was doing. And I then worked more on my basement remodel before feeling pretty sick. I got poor sleep that night, so that was lame. I sorted more of my instrumental music. Also, if any of you are wondering what I mean by that, see, I've been working for quite some time now on trying to find good instrumental music. At the moment, I have like 530 some songs, and recently I've been trying to put them to very specific categories so that, whatever the mood of my campaign is, I already have a set playlist for it. Plus, just having like music that's exactly what you want at the moment is pretty cool. So yeah, if any of you want to access my boss awesome playlist, I've literally spent 30 plus hours compiling them. So just let me know and I'll hook you up. Anyway, after that, I wasn't feeling sick anymore, so I went over to Neo's house and played some Halo before we both went to Caleb's to play some Minecraft in the night. The next day I was scheduled, and I put it that way because I didn't have much of a choice, for a hike with the Bassets, which wasn't horrible. It was mostly small talk the way there. I'm glad I was able to keep it from awkward silence. But once me and Braden went back early, because he had to go to work and I wanted to leave, we had some pretty decent conversations, so that was good. It was also around this time that I started having some more intense tooth pain, but, at the moment, painkillers were morally suspect, so I kind of muscled through it, which was lame. I then worked on the basement some more, mowed the lawn, watched a movie, made the mask thing I showed you earlier, and then stayed up somewhat late for Ben's bi-monthly deep talk. I'm telling you, it's almost like clockwork. Once every, 2 months, Ben goes mucho deep, and then nothing for the next 2-month appointment. The following day, I worked on a semicircle table I'm building for D&D, finished the cult mask, went to Neo's, in which Joe actually joined for. Look at that. Further friend integration. Got to watch in unbridled joy as Joe murdered Neo in Halo. See, Neo always wins, so it's good to have him get beat up for a change. And less prevalent joy as in Joe also murdered me. But the pain was dwarfed by the ecstasy of Neo's destruction, so it was totally worth it. Then Neo finally had his fancy lightsaber arrive, which I'll show you a picture of. Picture. And then Braden left to go pick up some Nerf swords and some plastic lightsabers from his house, which he then proceeded to fight with us with. And I held my own. But, like any true sword fight, the fun ended when Braden nailed Neo in the eye. Par for the course, I'm afraid. But yeah, it was a fun time up until then. Then we played some Halo until that night we called it and slept. The next 3 days, I skipped school since I'd already taken all my finals and they were just filler days. Also, I managed to get an A in my calculus-based physics class, which I did not see coming, but, that's also something I'm pretty grateful for. I went to work, as per usual, hung out with Braden, and then headed off to Minecraft for the rest of the night. The following day, I slept in, went to work, mastered Beat Saber at the highest level. I'm beating songs on super fast mode now, and I feel like a boss, before reading some Deuterocanonical Literature and then heading to Ratchet Christie. However, an interesting side note, on my way home, I got pulled over for the first time, so that was interesting. My brake light was out, and my insurance expired, but somehow he didn't give me a ticket, so I'm mucho thankful for that. Also, I'm a poor boy with all these Oculuses I've been spinning as of late. That Wednesday, I woke up pseudo early, meaning not actually early, but it felt early, to return my school books. I then drank a can of G Fuel, which I think is likely the cause of my subsequent mental death. That made me leave work early. I then rested for quite a bit that day and watched some anime, and then I did some more music sorting, getting close to done. After that, I was feeling better. Joe came over for D&D character creation, as he is now joining the campaign, and after that, we went to his house and played Brawlhalla, and I beat him twice, out of, 50 games. We don't need to talk about that. The next day, I spent 3 hours just trying to get a rim for my Honda from the scrapyard, which is the intro. There's no reason it should have been that hard. I then finished the anime I was on, did some more music sorting, and then went on a midnight rollerblade, which was good, as always. After that, I had a midnight meal, and then went to bed. Friday, I played soccer and did pretty darn awesome. Went to Home Depot with Dad to grab some stuff I needed. Noah Smith, not Deep Voice Noah or Ratchet Christie Noah, came over, and he originally invited me to pizza, but I did him one better and convinced him to go dumpster diving with me. I know, I'm such a good friend. But after we finished that, we did end up getting pizza, and then candy, and then talking on the lawn for quite a bit, which was good. I then got a stupidly bad headache, and painkillers are no longer suspect, so yay! And honestly, I didn't know how I would live if I didn't have painkillers, so that would super suck. Yesterday, I had another Home Depot run, painted some stuff, went dumpster diving, worked on this Life of Email, then went on a late night blade, and I started showing Grace Your Lie in April. Oh, and Mom. Because let's be honest, that's a really good anime. And finally, today, I worked on sanitizing and deodorizing all the carpets that I pulled from the dumpsters, and then now grace the Durst basement's floor. You're welcome, world. And then I intermittently worked on this email and got everything set up in the basement until it reached now. So yeah, that's what's been happening in life. I ain't dead yet. I don't intend to be anytime soon. And thus these emails shall continue to come your way, like it or not. And I'll talk to you all next time. Oh, and as a parting gift, a picture of Ben you will never get out of your brain.